The Golden Prison. Marcus Blackwood stood in his pristine Manhattan penthouse kitchen, watching smoke curl from what should have been his breakfast. The acrid smell of burning eggs filled the air, a stark contrast to the sterile perfection that defined every inch of his 42nd floor domain. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a breathtaking view of Central Park, but Marcus saw only another failure reflected in the glass. 7, he muttered, tossing his platinum watch onto the marble countertop with more force than necessary. 7 chefs in 10 months. The latest culinary disaster, a middle-aged Frenchwoman who claimed 15 years of Michelin-starred experience, had lasted exactly 3 weeks. Her crime, serving him salmon that was, in her words, perfectly cooked. But in his assessment, 30 seconds passed optimal. In Marcus's world, 30 seconds might as well have been 30 years. He pulled out his phone, scrolling through the contacts until he found Premier Staff Solutions. The agency specialized in high-end domestic help for Manhattan's elite, and they knew Marcus Blackwood's reputation well. His finger hovered over the call button as he surveyed his kingdom of isolation. The penthouse stretched over 4,000 square feet, each room a testament to minimalist luxury. Italian leather furniture sat precisely arranged. Abstract art from renowned galleries adorned the walls, and not a single item suggested human warmth or personal attachment. It was a space designed for a man who had systematically eliminated every variable he couldn't control, including meaningful relationships. "Mr. Blackwood," came the familiar voice of Jennifer Walsh, the agency director, after one ring. Her tone carried the practiced patience of someone who had fielded this exact call many times before. "I assume this is about the chef position?" "She's gone," Marcus said curtly, not bothering with pleasantries. "I need someone new, today." A pause. "Sir, with respect, this is the 7th placement this year. Perhaps we could discuss what specific qualities you're seeking in." "I'm seeking competence," Marcus interrupted, walking to his office, where 3 computer monitors displayed real-time stock prices and company metrics. His tech empire, quantum, dynamics, had made him worth $8 billion before his 35th birthday, but success had come at the cost of everything else. "I pay premium rates for premium service. Is that too much to expect?" "Of course not, Mr. Blackwood. It's just, well, finding qualified candidates willing to work under such exacting standards has become increasingly challenging." Marcus smiled. Grimly exacting standards, that was one way to describe his requirements. No personal phone calls during work hours, no deviations from prescribed menus without written approval, no small talk or attempts at familiarity, no mistakes, period. "I don't care about challenging," he said, settling into his ergonomic chair, worth more than most people's cars. "I care about results. Have someone here by 3 o'clock. After ending the call, Marcus turned his attention to the stack of quarterly reports waiting on his desk. Numbers and projections. These were languages he understood. Clean, predictable, logical. Unlike people, numbers didn't disappoint. They didn't leave. They didn't judge him for the walls he'd built, or question why he preferred solitude to the messy complications of human connection. His assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Blackwood, the Goldman meeting has been moved to 4:30. "Fine," he replied without looking up. The Goldman merger would add another billion to his portfolio, another achievement to stack atop his growing monument to success. Yet as he reviewed the profit margins and growth projections, Marcus felt the familiar hollow ache that no amount of money seemed to fill. At exactly 3 o'clock, the elevator chimed. Marcus barely glanced up from his computer, already composing the list of rules and expectations he'd deliver to his newest temporary employee. After all, they never lasted long enough for names to matter. The architect of schemes, Vincent Blackwood, stood behind his mahogany desk on the 59th floor, his silver hair catching the morning light that streamed through panoramic windows overlooking Lake Michigan. The city sprawled beneath him like a chessboard, each building a piece in the grand game of corporate dominance he'd been playing for 23 years. "The invitation was delivered?" Vincent asked, without turning from the window, his voice carrying the refined accent of old Chicago money. His assistant, Patricia Wells, consulted her tablet with practiced efficiency. "Yes, sir. Elena Rodriguez received it at 4:47 a.m. Our security cameras confirm she read it immediately." Vincent's reflections smiled in the glass. Patricia had worked for him for 8 years, long enough to understand his methods without questioning them. She'd witnessed the Gloria Hartman situation last year, the ambitious accounting manager who'd overstepped her boundaries, attending the gala only to find herself seated next to the mayor's elderly aunt, who spent the evening discussing her collection of antique thimbles. And the seating arrangements? Vincent adjusted his Italian silk tie, a ritual that signaled his mind was already 3 moves ahead. Table 12. Between Harrison Whitmore, the oil executive with the hearing problems, and Mrs. Pemberton, who hasn't stopped talking about her deceased husband's butterfly collection since 2018. Patricia's tone remained neutral, but Vincent caught the slight hesitation. "You disapprove, Patricia?" She looked up from her tablet, choosing her words carefully. "Sir, Elena Rodriguez has improved operational efficiency by 18% since taking over custodial supervision. Employee satisfaction surveys show numbers." Vincent waved dismissively, finally turning from the window. "Anyone can manipulate statistics. What matters is understanding the natural order of things." He moved to his bookshelf, retrieving a leather-bound volume, his grandfather's memoirs from building the Blackwood fortune in steel and real estate. "My grandfather used to say that every tower needs a strong foundation, but the foundation must never forget it's underground." The intercom buzzed. "Mr. Blackwood, Dr. Marcus Rivera from Chicago General is on line 3. He's calling about the gala." Vincent's eyes sharpened. He recognized the name. Rivera was respected in medical circles and moved comfortably among Chicago's elite. But what was his connection to a cleaning supervisor? Put him through. Vincent activated the speakerphone, his voice shifting to its public warmth. "Dr. Rivera, what a pleasant surprise. Mr. Blackwood, thank you for taking my call. I understand you've invited my cousin Elena to the Meridian Gala. I wanted to confirm I'll be attending as her guest." The silence stretched for several seconds. Vincent felt a familiar thrill, the moment when a carefully planned strategy encountered an unexpected variable. Patricia's eyes widened slightly, the first crack in her professional composure he'd seen in months. "Your cousin," Vincent repeated, slowly, his mind recalibrating. Elena Rodriguez wasn't just a cleaning supervisor with aspirations above her station. She had family connections he hadn't anticipated. Yes, Elena's been working incredibly hard, balancing her position at Meridian with her business studies. "I thought the gala would be an excellent networking opportunity for her." Dr. Rivera's tone was conversational, but Vincent detected steel beneath the courtesy. "Of course, we're always pleased to support our employees' professional development." Vincent's voice remained smooth, but his knuckles whitened as he gripped the phone. "I look forward to meeting you, Doctor." After ending the call, Vincent stared at Patricia. His earlier confidence replaced by calculation. The game had just become significantly more complex. "Research Dr. Marcus Rivera immediately," he instructed. "Hospital board connections, social, affiliations, net worth, everything, and adjust the seating chart." "To where, sir?" Vincent walked back to the window, watching the city's rhythm below. Businessmen in expensive suits hurried along sidewalks, unaware that their careers could shift with a single conversation, a misplaced word, a poorly calculated risk. Table 7, between the pharmaceutical heiress and the federal judge's wife. He paused, feeling the familiar rush of a challenge accepted. If Elena Rodriguez wants to play in this league, let's see if she can handle the pressure. But even as he spoke, Vincent couldn't shake the feeling that he'd underestimated his opponent. The cleaning supervisor with the business degree and the well-connected cousin was no longer a simple pawn to be moved around his board. The game, it seemed, was just beginning. Part 3, The Unexpected Alliance Doctor. Marcus Rivera finished scrubbing his hands after a successful valve replacement surgery, his mind already shifting to the lunch meeting with Elena. The corner cafe sat tucked between a bookstore and a florist, its worn brick exterior and mismatched chairs a stark contrast to the sterile perfection of Chicago General's cardiac wing. Elena was already waiting in their usual booth, her work uniform replaced by a simple sweater and jeans. Dark circles under her eyes spoke of another sleepless night spent juggling textbooks and cleaning schedules, but her posture remained straight, determined. "You look tired, Prima," Marcus said, sliding into the seat across from her. At 41, he'd learned to read faces with surgical precision. Elena's showed worry masked by stubborn resolve. "I need to show you something." Elena placed her phone on the table, the gala invitation still glowing on the screen. Marcus read it twice, his expression shifting from surprise to understanding to something darker. He'd attended enough corporate events to recognize the subtle cruelties that passed for entertainment among Chicago's elite. "Vincent Blackwood," he murmured, setting down the phone. "I know him by reputation. Brilliant businessman, but he treats people like chess pieces." Elena's coffee grew cold as she explained the encounter 3 months earlier, Blackwood's calculating stare, the way he'd watched her work with predatory interest. "This isn't an honor, Marcus. It's a trap." "Probably." Marcus pulled out his own phone, scrolling through his contacts. "But traps work both ways, depending on who's setting them." He showed her the screen, Vincent Blackwood's direct number. "I called him this morning, told him I'd be your guest." "Marcus, no. I can't ask you to—" "You didn't ask. I volunteered." His smile held the same determination that had carried him through medical school and residency on scholarship, the same quiet strength that had built his reputation among Chicago's medical community. "Besides, I've been meaning to meet Mr. Blackwood. I serve on the ethics board at Chicago General, and we've been discussing his company's charitable contributions." Eleanor studied her cousin's face. "What charitable contributions?" "Exactly." Marcus signaled the waitress for coffee refills. "Meridian Industries has one of the lowest philanthropy rates among major Chicago corporations. They donate just enough to qualify for tax breaks, nothing more. It's been a topic of conversation in several circles." Over the next hour, Marcus outlined his plan. He'd moved through Chicago's social stratosphere long enough to understand its unspoken rules, the delicate balance of power and perception that governed events like the Meridian Gala. "First, we need to get you properly equipped," he said, pulling out his wallet despite Elena's protests. "This isn't charity, it's strategy. You can't win a game if you don't understand the uniform." "Marcus, I can't let you pay for—" "Elena." His voice carried the authority he used in operating rooms. "Do you remember when we were kids and you helped me with my homework every night while I was failing algebra? That was different." "No, it wasn't. It was family helping family reach their potential." He leaned forward, his expression intense. "You're brilliant, Prima. You've managed a team of 23 people while earning a business degree. You've improved that building's efficiency by nearly 20%. The only reason Vincent Blackwood sees you as a target instead of an asset is because he's forgotten that real power comes from lifting people up, not pushing them down." Elena felt something shift inside her chest, a loosening of the knots she'd carried since receiving the invitation. "What do you have in mind?" Marcus grinned, the expression transforming his usually serious face. "I have friends on Meridian's board of directors. Hospital connections, you know. Turns out half of Chicago's corporate elite have heart problems." He scrolled through his phone. Dr. Hamilton serves on both Chicago General's board and Meridian's. Judge Chen's wife had surgery last year. The pharmaceutical heiress owes me a favor after I saved her father's life. "You're going to use your medical connections? I'm going to introduce my brilliant cousin to people who can recognize talent when they see it." Marcus's eyes sparkled with anticipation. Vincent Blackwood thinks he's orchestrating a humiliation. Instead, he's about to host Elena Rodriguez's coming-out party. As they left the cafe, Elena felt the weight of possibility settling around her shoulders like a cloak. The gala was still 5 days away, but the game had already begun. Marcus paused outside the restaurant, his expression growing serious. "Elena, I need you to understand something. Once we do this, there's no going back. You'll be visible in ways you've never been before. Are you ready for that?" Elena thought of her textbooks, her team at Meridian, her mother's voice encouraging her to reach higher. "I've been ready my whole life, Marcus. I just didn't know it yet." An unexpected arrival. The elevator doors slid open with mechanical precision, revealing a woman who immediately shattered every expectation Marcus had cultivated. Valentina Rodriguez stepped into his pristine foyer with the confident stride of someone who belonged anywhere she chose to be. Her dark hair was pulled back in a professional bun, her chef's portfolio tucked under one arm, and her 6-month pregnancy unmistakably evident beneath her tailored black dress. Marcus found himself momentarily speechless, a rare occurrence. For a man who commanded boardrooms filled with Fortune 500 executives, he had expected another nervous applicant, eager to please and quick to defer. Instead, Valentina extended her hand with a firm grip and direct eye contact that suggested she was interviewing him as much as he was interviewing her. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, her voice carrying a subtle accent that spoke of heritage and strength. "I'm Valentina Rodriguez. I understand you need someone who can actually cook." The slight emphasis on "actually" wasn't lost on Marcus. Jennifer Walsh had clearly briefed her new candidate on his reputation. Rather than feeling defensive, Marcus found himself intrigued. When was the last time someone had challenged him before even crossing his threshold? "Your resume is impressive," he said, leading her toward the kitchen while stealing glances at her composed demeanor. Le Bernardin, 11 Madison Park, the French Culinary Institute. Her credentials were flawless. "But I have specific requirements that previous chefs have found difficult to meet." Valentina paused at the kitchen's entrance, her trained eye taking in the professional-grade equipment that had intimidated so many before her. "Let me guess," she said, running her fingers along the spotless granite countertop. "No personal conversations, no deviations from approved menus, no mistakes, and definitely no questions about why you eat alone in a dining room designed for 12. Marcus felt heat rise in his chest, part irritation, part something he couldn't quite name. "You seem to think you have me figured out already, Ms. Rodriguez." "Not at all," Valentina replied, opening the industrial refrigerator and scanning its meticulously organized contents. "But I've worked for demanding clients before. The difference is I don't break easily, and I don't cook out of fear. Fear makes food taste like cardboard, no matter how expensive the ingredients." She turned to face him fully, one hand resting naturally on her rounded belly. "I assume you're wondering about this," she said, her tone matter-of-fact rather than apologetic. "I can do my job. The baby doesn't change my ability to prepare a perfect risotto or time a soufflé. If you can't handle having a pregnant woman in your pristine world, say so now and save us both the trouble." Marcus stared at her, his usual arsenal of cutting remarks and dismissive comments seemingly evaporated. When had anyone spoken to him with such directness? When had anyone made him feel like the one being evaluated? "Your condition doesn't concern me professionally," he said finally, though something deeper stirred within him, a fascination with the life growing inside her that he couldn't explain. "Can you start tomorrow?" "I can start now," Valentina replied, already tying an apron around her waist. "What would you like for dinner?" For the first time in months, Marcus found himself genuinely curious about a meal. "Surprise me," he said, the words slipping out before he could reconsider. Valentina smiled, not the practiced, deferential smile he was used to receiving, but something authentic and slightly mischievous. "Careful what you wish for, Mr. Blackwood. I have a feeling your life is about to get a lot less predictable." As she began pulling ingredients from his precisely stocked pantry with the ease of someone claiming territory, Marcus realized she was absolutely right. For the first time in years, he wasn't entirely sure he was in control. And surprisingly, that didn't terrify him as much as it should have. Part 3. Walls begin to crumble. 3 weeks into Valentina's employment, Marcus found himself breaking every rule he'd established for maintaining professional distance. What began as casual check-ins about meal preferences had evolved into elaborate excuses to linger in the kitchen. He inspected the wine inventory twice daily, questioned the temperature settings on appliances that functioned perfectly, and discovered urgent needs to discuss grocery orders that could have been handled via email. Valentina, for her part, seemed acutely aware of his presence without ever acknowledging it directly. She moved through her culinary choreography with practiced grace, her growing belly accommodated by subtle adjustments to her stance and reach. Marcus found himself mesmerized by these small adaptations, by the way she instinctively protected the life within her, while never allowing it to slow her down. On a particularly busy Thursday, Marcus entered the kitchen under the pretense of retrieving sparkling water from the wine fridge. Valentina stood at the stove, stirring a sauce that filled the air with the aroma of herbs and wine, her free hand pressed against her lower back in a gesture of discomfort she clearly hoped to hide. "Everything all right?" Marcus asked, abandoning his charade entirely. "Just the usual aches," Valentina replied without turning around. Apparently, 7 months of pregnancy wasn't covered in culinary school. 7 months. Marcus processed this information with an odd mix of calculation and concern. She had been further along than he'd realized when she started, which meant he found his thoughts wandering toward timelines and due dates, surprising himself with how invested he'd become in her well-being. "Perhaps you should take a break," he suggested, moving closer to examine her work. The sauce was perfect as always. Her consistency was remarkable. "I don't take breaks during dinner prep," Valentina said firmly, though Marcus caught the slight grimace that crossed her features as she reached for a higher shelf. Without thinking, Marcus stepped forward and retrieved the spice she needed, his body coming within inches of hers. The proximity sent an unexpected jolt through him, not just physical attraction, though that was undeniably present, but something deeper. A desire to shield her from discomfort, to ease the burden she carried alone. "Thank you," Valentina said softly, accepting the oregano while maintaining eye contact that lasted a heartbeat too long. That evening, Marcus found himself unable to concentrate on the quarterly reports that usually commanded his full attention. Instead, he was drawn to the soft sounds emanating from the kitchen, Valentina's voice speaking in rapid Spanish during what was clearly a phone call. Her tone carried emotions he rarely heard in their professional interactions: vulnerability, frustration, and a weariness that made his chest tighten with protective instincts he didn't understand. Unable to resist, Marcus moved closer to the kitchen doorway, remaining in the shadows while Valentina continued her conversation. "Carmen, I don't know what I'll do if he comes back," she was saying, one hand cradling her belly while the other held the phone. "Rico left the moment he found out about the baby. Said he wasn't ready to be tied down. 8 months of silence, and now suddenly he wants to work things out. Marcus felt anger surge through him with surprising intensity. The idea of someone abandoning Valentina during her pregnancy, then attempting to waltz back into her life, struck him as unconscionably cruel. I built a life without him, Valentina continued, her voice growing stronger. I don't need his guilt-driven charity, and this baby deserves better than a father who sees her as an obligation. Her. Marcus absorbed this detail with unexpected warmth. Valentina was carrying a daughter. No, I won't tell him where I'm working, she said firmly. This job, it's complicated enough without Rico's drama. My boss is... She paused, and Marcus leaned forward slightly. He's not what I expected. Difficult, yes, but there's something else there. Something he keeps buried under all that control. And money. Marcus retreated to his office, Valentina's words echoing in his mind. She saw through his carefully constructed barriers, recognized the man he'd almost forgotten existed beneath the billionaire's armor. More disturbing was the realization that he wanted her to see him, the real him, not the polished, emotionally distant executive the world knew. The next morning, Marcus entered the kitchen to find Valentina preparing his breakfast with unusual quietness. Her movements lacked their usual fluid confidence, and dark circles under her eyes suggested a restless night. "Rough evening?" he asked gently, surprising them both with his tone. Valentina looked up, her defenses clearly lowered by exhaustion. "Just some personal matters I'm trying to resolve." Marcus nodded, pouring himself coffee while wrestling with the urge to offer assistance he had no right to provide. "If you need time off, or if there's anything—" "Thank you," Valentina said, her smile carrying genuine gratitude, "but I prefer to handle my own problems." As Marcus left for his office, he realized that for the first time in years, someone else's problems felt like his own.